guys, my name's Jess, this is James, so we're from VACCA in the West. Firstly, just want to start with the acknowledgement. I'd like to acknowledge the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation, of the true owners and caretakers of the land that we meet on today. I'd like to pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. I'd like to extend that respect to any Aboriginal people in the room today, and also the young people and families that we are so privileged to work with every day in our work. This land has never been ceded, always will be Aboriginal land, always was, always will be Aboriginal land. Yeah,
I just want to further acknowledge that Jess and I are both non-Indigenous workers, and the experiences that we're talking about in the presentation today are not necessarily representative of every Aboriginal person, or of the experiences of everyone within the sector as well. And we certainly consulted with some of our Aboriginal colleagues and friends on some of these on the presentation. But as part of, I guess, recognising that as well, we've got some videos within the presentation that are some from VACCA and some from some other Aboriginal organisations as well, to highlight those voices throughout the presentation. So I guess just over our presentation here, we're going to give a little bit of an introduction about VACCA as an organisation, and I guess where VACCA's come from, and talking a little bit about what the difference is in an Aboriginal controlled and run organisation to mainstream organisations, and just give a little bit of context about intergenerational trauma, which I think is really important to understand, and was highlighted in the first presentation as well, how that kind of plays into the work that we do. Speaking then about family violence, what that looks like with the communities that we work alongside, and what our program is. So Jess and I both work with adolescents who use violence. So it's within our family violence team. Then just a little bit more about, I think some other ways that other organisations maybe can support and work alongside Aboriginal families. So I think one of the things, VACCA is a little bit, I think, unique in some ways within the Australian context of becoming, I guess from the 1970s when it first began. I think originally there was five workers, and particularly over the past 18 months, 2 years, the organisation has grown, rapidly to 900 staff across the state, which makes it one of the biggest organisations looking at not just with Aboriginal families that we work with, but also in terms of the Aboriginal staff as well. I think a huge employer of Aboriginal people as well. And I think it's kind of important to think about the context that VACCA and other organisations, just speaking about Victoria and Melbourne specifically, came from. And, there are similar stories across the country as well. But, in the 1970s, obviously there was a lot of, social movements and social struggles that were going on. And, if you go and look around Fitzroy and Northcote and Preston and those areas where the Preston office of VACCA is, which is our head office, but also organisations like the Aboriginal Advancement League, the Aboriginal Health Service, MESA, GYM in Fitzroy. These organisations didn't just come from nowhere, and they came from, that kind of struggle within, from a grassroots kind of level, which a lot of, organisations across the community sector have come from as well. And I think it's really important to remember, kind of recognise that that's where a lot of us have kind of come from. And I guess, thinking about some of the points from the first presentation as well about looking at, us not as individuals and individual workers, but within, as a collective, the organisations that we work with, but across the sector as well, and the kind of history that we're connected with. I think it shows the kind of need for these kind of organisations, and I think what can be achieved when we work together. I think that it is not without some struggles, I guess, over the last little while of, like a lot of organisations, I guess, coming out of the COVID period and things like that, is trying to find and keep staff in the kind of roles that have developed over the last little while as well. So, there's a kind of shifting workforce, as well as so many new people come into the sector that, I guess is kind of an onus on us as well in some regard to welcome those people and try to keep some of those, best practice for us as workers to be able to maintain, our work-life balance and all of those kind of things. I was said before that I've been sort of came into the community sector from a political kind of basis of being involved in advocacy and social justice work, I guess over the past little while it's kind of bringing some of those different skills together to think about our program, which was initially a pilot program which came out of the Royal Commission looking into the impacts of adolescents and family violence within the home. There was a question earlier about the sibling violence and increase of family violence around that. And I think that's certainly something that we see a little bit within our work as well. One of the videos that we're going to play later just talks about some of that mimicking behaviour that we see where a adolescent or young child might see that kind of controlling behaviour or even violence within the home, and then that's the kind of way that they've learned to behave as well. So that might be mimicking that behaviour through to their siblings and things as well. So I guess looking at that as a pilot program, then bringing that into a way that we've been able to implement the program as a whole that we'll talk about later.
You didn't even talk about yourself. It's not like you. So I'm Jess. I'm originally from Western Australia. So I grew up on Yamaji Country in Geraldton, Western Australia. I'm really proud of that. I love where I'm from. So like I said earlier, this is my dream job. I have a history working in women's refuges in Western Australia. I've worked in the justice system, case management and AOD, but this job is something that I'm really passionate about. I love working with young people, and I love working with people with challenging needs. So working in our family violence team is really rewarding. So I've done my studies in community service and youth work and mental health. James has obviously got a lot more experience, a couple more years than me, but without giving him a big head, he's definitely a mentor. For me coming to VACCA earlier in the year, he's been able to kind of start that pilot program. Exciting that we've been refunded for 3 years for our program, so we'll be working together and continuing to build this and hopefully being able to make a bigger impact with these families and young people in family violence in the West.
Yeah, as I said before, I think that, it's something that actually I remember, I think intergenerational trauma is not just something that is a part of, Aboriginal people and Torres Strait Islander people's lived experience in Australia, but, it's something that I guess relatively over the past, couple of decades, something that has become a lot more part of the consciousness of, I think people that are working in the fields that we're working in. But it's something that I think we see in our work all the time, is that there are things that, initially it's difficult to understand where some of that trauma might come from, and it's not necessarily the direct impacts of perhaps family violence or other situations that we're working with there, but there's something deeper. And I think that a lot of the time that's where we can see where some of this trauma comes from. And I guess it's difficult for us if we kind of looking at addressing some of the issues, and we can try to work through addressing family violence or other kind of present issues that we see. But when they're things that exist beyond that space, and they're things that are part of government structures, they're part of the history of the land that we're standing on and living on, and all of those kind of things, it is a more challenging, I guess, process. And I think not something that obviously any of us can do just in our work itself. But I guess that giving some of that context, I think, to us as workers, and also providing that understanding for the families that we work with, I think is really important. So this video is from the Aboriginal Healing Foundation, and I think it's a really great way of trying to understand what intergenerational trauma is and how it can impact on people as well. And just for any Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people in the room, just want to let you know that I think that yes, potentially voices and names of people who may have passed away within the video. So just to give that warning as well. And I guess for this video and some of the other videos as well, that if there's anything within the video that people feel uncomfortable about or whatever, obviously feel free to step out or take time to do what you need to do. And there's us and other people in the room that if you feel like having a chat about things, if there's anything that has been brought up through that sort of content, just let us know. You want to say anything before?
No.
The story of our communities, people and nation starts a long, long time ago. More than 60,000 years, in fact. This was when our culture and our law first started to thrive. We knew who we were and where we belonged. We took care of each other, our land and our waters. We ate food that made us healthy, lived on country and abided by our laws and song lines. Our families, our children were happy, with strong minds and hearts, because they were where they belonged. But then, everything changed.
Colonisation came, bringing wars, disease, famine, violence, and the destruction and violation of our cultural laws, sacred sites, families, and communities.
We were denied our knowledge, language, ceremonies, and identity, the very things that tell us who we are and where we belong. And our connections with each other and the land grew weak.
And then, our children were taken from us. They had their names changed and their identities stripped away. They were told that Aboriginal people were bad. Worse still, they were told that their parents and grandparents did not want them.
For years this happened, and those children became known as the stolen generations.
Our children were denied love and experienced physical, emotional, and sexual abuse. This left very deep, very complex, and very real wounds, leaving scars that are still being felt personally, socially, spiritually, and collectively.
In the time when our story started, we were able to parent in the cultural way that has seen our families survive and thrive for generations. Our people were strong, and our culture flowed and healed us in times of hurt.
But since the trauma of colonisation and the stolen generations, we have not been able to heal in the same way. And we have unknowingly passed this trauma on to our children through sharing our sad stories and having them witness and experience our pain. This is known as intergenerational trauma, and we see symptoms today in broken relationships, disconnected families, violence, suicide, and drug and alcohol abuse.
But this is not where our story ends. We still have strong minds and hearts, and we still know who we were and where we belong. By creating safe and strong communities together, supporting our families to be free from pain, returning to our culture and building a strength of identity, we can stop the cycle of trauma and bring about positive intergenerational change so that we can continue to thrive for the next 60,000 years. There are simple things that we can all do to help heal our trauma.
Visit healingfoundation.org.au to find out more.
Yeah, I think it really highlights the kind of need to have Aboriginal organisations and for non-Aboriginal organisations to have that cultural understanding as well, because I think one of the things that obviously through the stolen generations as well, that there's a big distrust for organisations like Child Protection or other organisations that may be perceived or otherwise to have a link to some of the atrocities that have happened in the country as well. And I guess it's sort of either having someone from VACCA to come out to support Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander families that we're working with, or to have the kind of cultural understanding to understand that and to work alongside people with that experience as well. I think, is really important.
One thing I was told is don't have notifications, and I said no.
I think the video as well, it really, one of the things that is important to recognise is that just as we're about to kind of talk about some family violence examples and programs and things within the organisation, that family violence is in no way a part of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander culture, that it's something that is a symptom of the culture that is here. And, I think that was explained in the intergenerational trauma video as well, that, there's a very kind of separate things, and some of the issues that, Aboriginal families are having to experience here today is a result of that colonisation and the impacts there, and the struggles of having to live within the society that we have today.
I guess I just wanted to touch on our team at VACCA in the West. So we're a part of a family violence team. We're in the therapeutic side of the team, I guess. So there's James and I, we're the adolescent family violence youth workers. We also work with family violence therapeutic counsellors. So they work with mostly women and children that are victims of family violence. We also work with two cultural leads that run they have groups for young people and adolescents that are victims of family violence. So they do cultural groups, and then the counsellors are a part of that. So what they'll do is they'll have that cultural side, and then they'll also have the counsellors there, and they will work with the children through, their trauma and their experiences with family violence. I guess with James and I, when we start working with the adolescents, they are labelled as people using violence, but pretty much 100% of the time they're victims of family violence themselves. So we have a lot to navigate when we first start working with the family. Also a part of the family violence team is we have caseworkers. So they are really crisis managing those families that are trying to escape from family violence. So they're doing the crisis accommodation, they're working with the families to get security cameras, they're doing like case management, they're doing like a lot of crisis work day by day and they've got like long lists. So it's really upsetting that, you know, they're having to work with so many families, and then they're doing a lot of referrals. They're going into the families, working with the victims, so the mostly the mother, and then they will find out that maybe one of the children are also using family violence. They'll do a referral to us, and sometimes they'll refer to counselling. So we really have to work together as a team to be able to address all the needs of the family, not just the parent or not just the child using violence. I guess another thing that James and I find is that we come into the family and we notice that there is a sibling using family violence that is getting all the attention, and we're not focusing that attention on the young people that are dealing with their trauma or family violence differently. So whether that be, you know, they're just keeping their emotions to themselves, they might be self-harming, but that other young person that we're working with is using family violence, and we're putting that intervention for them and we're missing that other sibling. So a part of the work we do is that we want to come in and we want to make sure that we get to know everybody. And even though we might have the client that's using family violence, we really try and make referrals and work with the whole family. So VACCA have some videos that's a good way. They're short videos just showing like different ways that family violence can be used in the home. First, this one is Auntie Muriel speaking, so we'll play that one. Also, another trigger warning, so this does show family violence, so feel free to step out at any time if you need to.
I'm really proud to introduce Safe Koori Families video series. VACCA is committed to addressing family violence and keeping victims safe, and supporting those who use violence seek help. We know that family violence disproportionately affects Aboriginal families. Violence is not a part of our culture. We all want to live in environments free from family violence. Our Safe Koori Families videos have been created to provide community with real-life examples of what family violence looks like and its effect on our safety and well-being. These videos provide us with the opportunity to have meaningful conversations about family violence and promote dialogue on how we can create change. Each video looks at the different ways family violence impacts. We look at cultural abuse, bystander behaviour, and the impact emotional abuse has on our young people. The videos show examples of what community may have seen or experienced within their family or community. Our message is clear. Everyone has a right to feel safe in their personal relationships and live free from violence and abuse. The videos help us to recognise these patterns of behaviour as harmful. It is so important to start having these conversations about change. The videos give us a shared understanding of what we want, how we want healthy, respectful relationships to look in our community. The overrepresentation of Aboriginal people in family violence statistics is not reflective of our ways of caring and respect of our mob and how we share. It is up to all of us to come together, to call out violence when we see it, and support those who are at risk of or are experiencing family violence to seek the early help. I ask you to please watch these short videos, share them with people you know, and use them to start conversations about healthy, respectful relationships. I encourage you to speak openly and build greater understanding of the everyday examples of family violence. It is important that women and children are safe and that we work together on the trauma of living with violence. It's important to avoid truly tragic outcomes for our people experiencing family violence. Therefore, addressing the early signs of an abusive relationship and offering to support those who are at risk or are experiencing family violence is essential. VACCA's family violence programs work to keep children and families safe. We also provide assistance to people using violence so they are able to make positive changes in their lives. I urge you to take care of your well-being when viewing these videos and seek support should these videos cause distress.
Before I play this is one that we see a lot with our young people. I guess they can see the way a relationship is in the home, and then they will mimic that. So they might get a partner or to their siblings and think that this is a normal way to interact with each other, to speak to each other. That's how a relationship should look like. So I think that this one is really valuable for the work that we do with young people.
Kids have everything?
Yeah. Hey, what are you doing? Are you joking? Get out!
He doesn't have to speak to her like that. I see other mums drive all the time.
What are you, stupid or something?
There's got to be another way, eh?
Hey, what do you think you're doing? Are you stupid or something?
You don't want to be like him, okay?
I always think that one's like the one that really hits home for me. I guess you work with young people and they get those labels put on them. You're just like your dad, you're just like your brother, you know, you're never going to be any different. And then they really take that on themselves, and then they say that to you as well, that they don't think they can change or be any different.
Our mob been doing these markings for as far back as the stories go.
Not this shit again. Get that muck off your face.
Bob, can you go get Mum's necklace? I want her to be proud of her culture, proud of who she is. There's got to be another way.
Try and embarrass me. The boys are coming around to watch the footy in a minute.
Why do you care so much about what your mates think? This is who I am, Trevor. If you don't understand it, I'll teach you. But I'm not going to hide my culture no more.
Found it.
It's all right. Come on. Deli, Bub.
Yeah, give me a sec. That's Bub. Hello? Oi, where are you? Where? What are you doing at Tennille's, the dumb slut? No, you're not. Go home. Last time I'm gonna tell you, go home.
This isn't cool. I don't want to piss him off, but it doesn't make him a strong man talking like that. There's got to be another way, eh?
She just got told.
Hey, Bros. You shouldn't talk to her like that. No, we gotta have more respect for our women than that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think with some of the videos there, it's certainly kind of information, that things that we do see, like Jess said, within the young people, kind of mimicking some of that behaviour. But then I think the last video is really important as well, because it's something that's probably come about more recently, where we see a lot more people being willing to intervene and to play a supportive role in being able to change people's behaviour, and whether that be friends or colleagues or within the family homes that we go and visit as well. And I think one thing that I think is really an important part, and has become a really important part of the family violence sector, is that I guess the kind of work around keeping the perpetrator in view, and there's some specific kind of training that came from the US around this sort of stuff over the last few years as well, that some people here might have taken part in. But it's this idea of that while the sector used to just focus on the person who's experienced family violence and the mum and the children, and to focus services on those people, which is I think understandable, but we don't see what's happening with the other person, with that ex-partner or whatever their kind of role may be. And so we lose sight of where they are, and as we heard in the first presentation, that particularly young people will kind of often seek that the dad or the partner or whoever again, and then they've come back. We don't really know what's happened, what's been their journey through that time. And I think this new way of kind of keeping that person in view, I think it really helps to understand and try to work with them to improve their behaviour, and to try to make it a safe place for the other people in the family to be able to be perhaps in their life, or at least that we have a view of where they are. And I think that that's a really important kind of focus within the sector now. So yeah, I guess that coming into that, that's where what our program does is work with young people, adolescents, mostly 12 to 17, who have been using family violence in the home. And yeah, I think like Jess sort of touched on before, it's kind of not without its problems as well. I think that these young people are going through obviously a lot of kind of developmental stages themselves, and so far in the period of time that we've been running the program, I'm pretty sure all of the young people that we've had in the program have also experienced family violence. So, for them trying to conceptualize what does their behaviour that they're now, in a program about, how do they feel about that when, perhaps the person who, has been violent towards them, or the other experiences that they've had, what accountability do those people have? And if none, and, often their experience is potentially worse than, what they might be doing themselves. It's a quite a difficult kind of process for us to kind of work with them about, why are they kind of in a process and in a program to receive, work around that, but those other people are not accountable. So I think there's a lot of great kind of progress that's made with them, and it's a really mature and I think important understanding for them to kind of see those things and to see themselves in that context, and to want to make those kind of changes. Certainly difficult for us as kind of adults to kind of make changes in our lives for lots of things. So to kind of go through that process, I think is really, really important and really special. Did you want to go through a bit of the criteria?
Yeah. So the criteria for our program, like James said, is 12 to 17. They're Aboriginal children, or they've got Aboriginal family. And the purpose of the program really is to reduce the risk of them using family violence in the future, or to really manage the use of family violence at home. So we don't work with young people maybe get in fights at school, it's family violence. We don't want to use the word perpetrator for young people, so we just call them young person using violence. So I guess coming into the role, I've realised that you have like a lot of hats, and probably like everyone can relate to in youth work, is that you come in and you work with a young person and you might have a role to work with them because of their use of family violence, but you've also got so many other risks and factors that you have to work with, and you have to kind of manage that and prioritise, okay, what's the biggest risk here and what do we address first? A lot of young people, they might have self-harming, homelessness. There might be a perpetrator in the home that the family haven't disclosed, and you only learn about it when you meet with that young person for the first time. I think it's important as well to be not only working with that young person, but be working with, collaborating with the school and collaborating with the family, the parent, because you're going to get a better insight of what's going on, and you're going to learn about that young person so much more than what they're telling you, maybe when you take them out for that 1 hour. So part of our program is that we've also started a youth group on a Thursday, and the reason that we've done that is when we've noticed with our young people is they're not connected with their culture, and they're not connected with other young people that have had similar experiences to them. So we've, this photo is from our youth group. We've had about 8 regular young people attend, but they are like looking forward to that youth group every single week because they've all got that common experience of family violence at home and have conversations that they probably wouldn't have with their peers at school or even with their siblings at home. So referrals, we accept referrals from other agencies. A lot of our referrals do come from the family violence team within VACCA. We're really out there trying to promote our program because it was a pilot and now we've been refunded for 3 years. So we're really excited, and we know that there is young people out there that need this service. But it's just not well known. A lot of people that we go and meet around in the West, they've never heard of it. So that's why we're really excited to be here today. And yeah, we're really passionate about this program because we know that it's needed within our community.
I think, you know, one of the things last year through COVID doing this program as well is like, you know, we're still able to go and meet with young people, but you know, driving out to have a conversation in a, you know, McDonald's car park or whatever about family violence and behaviour change and things like that was like, you know, there has to be another way to kind of put some of these pieces together, which I think is, yeah, I guess another aspect of the youth group, and, you know, to let them know as well that it's not just an individual thing that they're going through, that there's other people in the community, other Aboriginal kids that are similar age who've gone through a similar experience. And I think when we were first putting together, you know, the pieces for the group, we were thinking, oh, you know, some of the kids, they don't like sitting down at school, and they don't like, you know, this kind of environment. They tell us they don't necessarily want to get to know new people. So like, well, we're going to be doing kind of all of those things in this space. But I think because of those aspects of what bound them together, they really bonded really quickly, and like Jess said, it became a really safe space for them to be able to you know, share with each other and share with us and create yeah, a community space that I think felt welcoming to them and has been a good space to be able to bring some of those ideas together.
Yeah. I kind of want to touch on, like I said, when we come in, there's lots of risks and we've got to manage that. So a lot of the young people we're working with might not have, you know, they might have a disability that hasn't been diagnosed, so we have to support them. And again, like I said, we have lots of hats and different roles to do. So I kind of want to just touch on what we do in different aspects of their life. So I guess with the community, a lot of the kids aren't connected with culture. Maybe they don't learn or have much at school. They don't have other Aboriginal, Torres Strait Islander peers at school, and they're really craving that. So we're able to meet with community, and VACCA, we have a lot of awesome community events. So we'll connect them with like groups that do like art, dance, what else is there? There's like yarning circles, elders groups, mothers groups, kids groups. So we don't just do that for our client, we'll do that for the whole family, and we might even go and pick them up and take them to those events and connect them, because I guess we all got a bit awkward through COVID and we don't want to meet new people and put ourselves out there. But if we support them to that, then they're more likely to attend, right? And also, like, you know, telling them about local events that are going on, like for NAIDOC Week, for Sorry Day, stuff like that. So it's exciting to get around them and encourage them to connect with their community. With family, so again, we're not just supporting that one individual, we're supporting the family. So whether that be financial, recently I had a young person, they couldn't afford to get her diagnosed, and she's had a lot of different behaviours that they haven't been able to understand. And I was able to support her financially and taking her and advocating for her to have a proper diagnosis. So ADHD, autism, a lot of young people, the families don't know the processes and they don't know who to ask. So being like not only, I guess, a role model, but also being like, I guess like what we touched on earlier, a caring and a trustworthy person and adult in their lives, not just for the young person, but for the parents as well. Sometimes they just need to offload some stuff that they're dealing with at home, especially for mums that are dealing with that family violence and they're still, you know, in crisis mode and they're still got so much on their plate. We also do referrals for families into different programs. So I guess that's why we like networking and making sure that we know what's around the area for our families. Parenting programs. So a lot of young people, they find that their parents don't understand social media or their gaming or the language that they're using or COVID. And some of the family violence we see it's those old school views, especially even with self-harming. You know, are they doing it for attention? And we have to come in and educate the parents, but in a really mindful way and really holistic way as well. It's safety planning, so we are working with family violence. The perpetrator, we always have to have view on that perpetrator. There's many times where they might be coming back into the home and mum won't tell us, but the kids will. So we want to make sure that we've got eyes on that perpetrator, but also keeping the whole family safe. And that can also be safe from our client. Our clients are using family violence. Sometimes that's towards their siblings, sometimes that's towards their parents, towards the mum that's also had that experience from partners, husband, dad. So we have to make sure that we've got safety planning, and we're not just coming up with that, we're getting mum involved, we're getting siblings involved, what's going to work for them. What else have I got here? Oh, schools and services. So I think there's a lot of people from schools here. I love working with the schools because they really get the best look on the young person. I like to know how they engage with their peers. Are they being aggressive at home, but then they're really engaging and social at school? Or are they isolating themselves at school? That stuff's really important for us to know to be able to work properly with the young person. So we're going to schools, we're meeting with them at school because it might not be safe to do at home. Maybe if they're not wanting to engage with services, we'll transport them there. I'll work with the service that maybe I'll make a referral to, and we'll meet them together. So really being able to sit there and support the young person works really well, and also going to lots of care team meetings.
Yeah, and I guess one of the other things that we were able to do this year, which sort of came from, hadn't been able to happen for a little while, obviously, because of COVID, was the cultural camps. And we had a couple of camps this year and one on youth. And yeah, I just wanted to share a little bit about that. And it was just such a privilege to, I think there was 15 teenagers that we took away for 3 days, and about half of those were from our program. And obviously there's a lot of like risk management and planning going into taking, you know, those kind of, that amount of teenagers away for a couple of days. And, you know, we had a lot of really awesome cultural activities, including things like spear making and emu egg etching and didgeridoo. We, like, all the participants got a didgeridoo, and we had an elder come and speak about that and teach them a little bit about that. You know, obviously we were concerned that hopefully they weren't going to take the spears to school and things like that. But it was just amazing to see from the young people, like coming into the space, I guess similar to the youth space as well, the youth group space, that we weren't sure how they're going to go interacting with each other and how quickly they were able to kind of form bonds and, really want to learn and engage more in their stories, and to hear, in some of the yarning circles about some of their journeys with discovering more about their culture and who their mob is and some of their stories and things like that. Because for some of the young people that we work with, this might be the first steps for them in understanding and even identifying as being an Aboriginal person, because of the things that they've experienced, leading up to that. So, yeah, it was just a really amazing experience to be able to, walk alongside some of those cultural practices and to see those cultural practices taking place and to be a part of those that, are clearly not necessarily part of things in our culture. They're not necessarily taught in schools and things like that. So, that history and those lessons are really important. But yeah, it's just great to be able to, it wasn't necessarily a camp that was focused on family violence or anything like that, but it's about kind of building healthy relationships and I guess looking at the issues that are under the surface for young people and trying to address those. And I think particularly for Aboriginal Torres Strait Islander people, that a lot of those things are connecting further with culture, and that can help to strengthen themselves and the choices that they're going to make in their life. How much time do we have left? I might quickly, I was going to share a case study. There was I think a really, at times challenging and a really great kind of story from last year with a young person that I was working with. And I guess it kind of highlights like a few of the kind of issues within that we might encounter with the young people that we work with. So this young person came into our program as the person using family violence at the home, and they were going to be having a baby fairly soon, and so through that time, obviously they had a lot of things going on. They were 16, and because of the age range that we work with as well is quite different. Issues present for 16, 17-year-olds to 12 and 13, and it can be quite different, the kind of things that we might be working with them on. But so through the period of time, we worked on emotional regulation and de-escalating how they feel in certain situations, really trying to get them to understand the kind of things that might trigger them or make them kind of feel heightened in those kind of situations. And there was a lot of conflict, I guess, between them and their partner at the time. So certainly a lot of those kind of situations were times where they might be triggered. We worked on really trying to give them some more tools in those kind of situations to eventually kind of move out of those discussions and eventually kind of move out of that. If that kind of conflict happened, that they would go for a walk or they would give me a call or, go through one of the processes that we worked out. Over a period of time, they ended up becoming the person who was experiencing family violence at the home, which is that kind of cycle for them is not uncommon, I think, but really challenging for them. And I think it really made them see and understand some of their own behaviour as well, because it was then happening to them. But yeah, through that kind of period, because of the family violence happening to them, they had to leave, or they chose to leave that situation. And I remember they were going on a camping trip, and they'd asked if we could help to get some camping supplies for them, tent and all of those kind of things, which we did. And then a little while later, I realised that they did go on a camping trip, but they were also using that equipment as kind of emergency accommodation for the times that they weren't able to stay at a friend's house or get back to that ex-partner's house or things like that. So yeah, I think it was a really clever way for them to kind of utilize some of the resources they could without kind of directly approaching it in that way. But after working with them for quite a period of time, they had, I guess, pretty kind of strained relationship with some of the people within their family home. But over a period of time, like slowly that kind of healing was able to take place, and they eventually moved back into the family home. And, within that, a lot of other kind of like resources, services sort of weren't needed anymore. And the kind of resources that they had at home were able to, they were able to get back onto medication and to get to appointments and, really kind of turn things around in that kind of way. And I think that certainly wasn't all to do with us, but it kind of shows, with a little bit of assistance from organisations like, people represented here, that we can kind of assist the young people to turn those kind of things around for them. And I think it's really difficult at times where, we kind of think about the kind of cycle of change of where someone might be at, and when people present to some of our organisations that they may be presenting in that kind of crisis mode, and it's difficult to sort of go, oh, how are we going to move them up to that kind of point where they might change some of their own behaviours or change some of the aspects in their life to kind of move them further around there. I just thought like it's a good case study of where that at times didn't seem like it was going to be possible, but yeah, it was.
What challenges do we face?
Oops. I think we've spoken about some of the challenges already, and I think that there's probably some of the challenges around like short-term delivery service of the program. Usually we're allocated either 40 or 110 hours to work with a young person, which is not really enough time to kind of go through some of those kind of cycles we're talking about. But yeah, I think that has been pretty flexible, certainly at VACCA. I think some of the other organisations that have similar programs to either extend those or to re-refer people back into the program, because, I think it kind of goes to some things I spoke about earlier around losing some of that kind of community idea of, of the community service sector, is that short-term service delivery is, it's something to kind of feed KPIs and things like that. It's not something that is at the forefront of delivering, I think, like best practice. So I think that's a real challenge. And I guess, some of the things we spoke about in terms of getting young people to kind of identify where their behaviour sits within the kind of context of other behaviour that they see. And I guess even the ideas around, just working with young people who are using family violence rather than, working with people who are experiencing that as well, and kind of having those labels, I think, can be really challenging for young people that we're working with.
Exactly right. Yeah, no, I agree.
Did you?
So VACCA do offer cultural awareness training. So I know that most of you have all done that anyway, but we just wanted to promote that VACCA do our own cultural awareness training, and I think it's really important to be able to stay culturally informed and also have that delivered by Aboriginal people. So you can access that through the VACCA website. We just really wanted to promote that before finishing up. Perfect timing. Okay.